All right, this is part 2 of 10.3 for pre-algebra. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be seeing a few questions straight from your homework and a few that are very similar to the homework, but not directly straight. So let's get started. Let's talk about what this is. Now, if you notice, it does look like a bar graph. Maybe you've learned it back in your other grade levels or when you were back in elementary. But if you notice, the numbers look a bit weird. It says 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99. This has two different names. This is known as an interval frequency chart. And the reason why it's called an interval frequency chart is because these numbers now have a range from 60 to 69. It's represented in intervals and not necessarily just one number. But the most common name, which is actually the title of the lesson in 10.3, this is also known as a histogram. So let's get started. We're going to do some examples that are very similar to 12 through 16 from your homework. Now, 12 through 16 is on page 408, and these are just, basically, this is my own histogram, but the questions are very much just like 12 through 16. So the first one's like number 12, the second one's like 13, and so on and so forth. So let's get started. Let's kind of look at the information. It looks like I have a range of numbers going from 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99. And these represent the scores of certain students. And this represents the frequency. So I'm going to put here frequency. I'm just going to abbreviate it as frequency. And this represents the scores that certain students got. So as you can see, the way that we properly read this is that this pink one, which is from 60 to 69, it means that 2 students got a score between 60 to 69 on a test. The one in green means that there are 3 students that got a score between 70 to 79. The one in orange means that 8 students got a score between 80 and 89. And the one in yellow, which is the range of 90 to 91, means there's 6 students that got a range between 90 and 91. So let's get started. We are actually going to start off right from the beginning. It says, how many students does each mark on the vertical scale represent? So first off, the keyword here is vertical. Vertical means up and down. And what they basically want you to see is how much does this go up by vertically? Remember, vertically means up and down. And if you notice, how much are these numbers going up by? They're only going up by 1. So that's right. How much does each mark represent? 1. That's your final answer. Now, if this was going up by 2, 4, 6, 8, then I would say it's going up by 2s. Okay? Next, what is the frequency of 90 through 99? So 90 through 99 is this yellow part right here. And the frequency is however high that yellow part or that specific interval goes up to, which, as in this case, is 6. So my frequency is 6. This one, which would represent number 14, it says how many individuals are represented in the histogram. So we need to see how many total people are in this histogram. So to find out how many people, you just count out what's the highest number for each. So here we have 2, here we have 3, here we have 8, and here we have 6, and we're just going to add them all up. 8 plus 6 is 14, plus 3 more is 17, 18, 19. So in total, there are 19 individuals or 19 students in the histogram. Okay? Here, this one's kind of an interesting one. This is like number 15 on your homework. What is the modal interval of the histogram? Now, modal is a really weird word, but if you just want to imagine this word as saying, what is the mode? That's a better way of interpreting it, okay? So modal and mode, it means the same thing. And remember, to find the mode, it means the number that repeats the most or the number with the highest frequency. So let's see, what is the interval with the highest frequency? My highest frequency is 8, and the interval is 80 through 89. Okay? We got one more like this. It says, what is the median interval of the histogram? Now remember, to find the median, that represents the number in the middle. going back to part 1, which if you haven't seen part 1 yet, please stop this video and go watch part 1. But as we did in part 1 earlier, right, the way that we got the median was we basically kind of went from the smallest number to the biggest number and started crossing them out. Well, that's the same idea I can do here, but on a table. Now you're probably wondering, how do I do that on a table? Well, each one will count as one person. So I'm going to start with the smallest interval to the highest interval, and again, smallest to the next highest, and the next smallest to the next highest, next smallest to the next highest, next smallest to the next highest, and then the next smallest to the next highest, next smallest to the next highest, next smallest, and so on and so forth. And I am left with this one spot. Now this one spot, remember, is in the orange, and the orange represents what interval? That's right, 80 through 89. So what is the median interval? 80 through 89. All right. And this is how you answer some questions that are very similar to 12 through 16 on your homework, and 12 through 16 is on page 408. Now I do need to show you one more style question, which is on the next page here. And this one is exactly number 18 on your homework on page 409. So if you want to get a homework question down, here it is, number 18. And I'm going to read it and kind of break it down for you what this means. Now we're going to make an interval frequency table. Intervals mean, remember, a range of numbers, okay? So an interval frequency table for the following set of data. Use grouping intervals of 10, meaning that each group is going to be presented as such, 0 through 9, 10 through 19, etc. Then calculate the mean. So we're going to start off with the very first part. The very first part is creating an interval, and first off, we got to see these numbers that we have. And actually, the numbers are already presented from least to greatest. The smallest number is 41, the biggest number is 95. And as they mentioned in our directions, they want us to put it in intervals of 10, starting from 0 to 9, then 10 to 19. The next one would be 20 to 29, and then 30 to 39, and so on and so forth. But the smallest number we have here is in our 40s. So our first interval is going to be 40 through 49. Our next interval, which I do have some in the 50s, is 50 through 59. Then 60 through 69. And keep going, 70 through 79. 80 through 89. And let's see if I have any in my 90s. I sure do. 90 through 99. Do I have anything after 90s? Nope. So those are all my intervals. Now, the frequency part is actually a lot easier than the midpoint. So let's actually do the frequency part first. Remember, frequency was kind of like what we did in part 1, which was basically saying how many numbers are in this range or in this interval. So let's see how many numbers are in my 40s. I got 1, 2, 3 numbers. So I'm going to put the number 3. My numbers in the 50s, I only got one number, so only one. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 in my 60s. I have 1, 2, let's cross it out already. 1, 2, 3 in my 70s. Okay, let's see what else I got. I got 1, 2, 3 in my 80s. And 2 in my 90s. So that's how I do the frequency. Now we have to talk about what's midpoint. Midpoint just means the number in between 40 through 49, which it's actually really simple. Kind of think about it, what's the number in between 40 and 50? Well, in between 40 and 50 is 45. However, this is not in between 40 and 50, this is 40 through 49. So what I need to do is I need to find the halfway mark between 40 to 49, or I can just basically do 40 plus 49 divided by 2, which gets you, by the way, 44.5. I can do the next one, which is 50 plus 59 find the halfway mark, which is 54.5. And you guessed it, the next one is 64.5, 74.5, 84.5, and 94.5. We're almost done here. We're gonna finish off our table by getting the product. Now, to get the product, we can't actually multiply just one single number. Back in our video in part 1, remember, to get the product, it was just one number times the frequency. But here, it's an interval. So am I gonna do 3 times 40 and 3 times 41 and 3 times 42? No, you're just gonna do your M times your F, or your midpoint times your frequency. In other words, I'm going to multiply 44.5 times 3, okay? So I'm gonna be nice enough and kind of give it to you guys already. So 44.5 times 3 is 133.5. The next one is 54.5, because that's easy. 54.5 times 1 is 54.5. Keep going. I have 258, 223.5, 189. Oops, I'm missing one. Excuse me. 189 is for the last one. I would jumped ahead. 253.5. I want to make sure also that I create a little row, a total row. And I'm going to get the total of the frequency and the total of the product. And you're going to see how later on how that's really helpful. So remember, my total of the frequency just means add these all up. And there's actually 16 numbers. My total for the product just means add all the product up. And that's 1,112. Now we're almost completely done with question 8. You needed to create a table. It was a lot, making sure you put it in intervals, making sure you have a midpoint and a frequency and a product. But then at the very end, it says, then calculate the mean. So let's kind of go back for a moment of how we calculated the mean for question number 6 on page 407. So the way that I did it was I got the product divided by the frequency total. So I'm going to get my product total here, which is, to get my mean, I'm going to get 1,112, and yes, divided by my frequency total. This is always how your mean will work, okay? And basically, if you want to know what the answer is, right, you can, of course, use long division. I need you all to use long division, okay? Like 16 goes into 111, 6 times, and you work it out on the side, okay? Just like how I'm doing it now. This becomes a 0, this becomes an 11, this becomes a 5 and a 1, and now 16 goes into 152. I don't know. Let's try a 9. That's pretty close. And I know that's an 8. I bring a decimal, add a 0. And I know this one, but maybe if you don't, 16 times 5 is exactly 80. So what did I get as my mean? That's right, 69.5. So as you can see, we created a table and we got the mean. We got the mean by getting the product total divided by the frequency total. And what I recommend you guys do is that if you ever got lost in this video or the video prior, please pause it, fast forward, rewind, anything you need, and feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. Have a good one.